What's shaking, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Human League, and we're going back to Dare 1981, and we're up to the tune, which is another parenthetical title. I'm amused and intrigued by how many titles from the 80s had at least part of the title in parentheses, but it's Love Action, and then parenthetically, I Believe in Love. So, a love action, I feel like there could be different ways to render that, something that is reflective of the powerful emotion and sense of devotion one feels for another. It could also be shorthand for a physical act of intimacy. But I believe in love, believe seemingly in this rendering more that I support, I think is a good thing, rather than I am convinced that this ontologically exists. Perhaps it could be a bit of both. Either way, it sounds like a declaration of philosophical principle as much as anything. I did note in the track listing that the next tune is the big one, so to speak. So I'm curious to hear, whether the women play a role in this. I know a couple people have mentioned that begins to become more common, and obviously in the big one, Don't You Love Me, we will hear that, but I have been wondering as we get closer to the track. So again, we're one tune away. But yeah, maybe this will have a more, idiosyncratic or like eccentric narrative, and it's less about making declarations about love in general and more about like, because of this person or in this situation, I believe in love because I have to, or whatever it might be. So let's hear it. Love Action, I Believe in Love, by Human League from the Dare album 1981.
When you're in love, you know you're in love, no matter what you try to do. You might as well resign yourself to what you're going through. If you're a man or if you're a child, it still might get to you. Don't kid yourself, you've seen it all before. A million miles have said that too.
It's got like a shimmy to it.
I've had my hard times in the past. I've been a husband and a lover too.
At the same time,
I've lain alone and cried at night over what love made me do. And the loved ones who let me down and couldn't share my point of view. But this is Phil talking. I want to tell you what I found to be true.
alright?
I love your love action. Love's just a distraction.
I love your love action.
Talking, just looking, watching your love action. I believe what the old man says, though I know that there's no Lord above. I believe in me, I believe in you, and you know I believe in love. I
This is
believe in
brilliant.
truth, though I lie a lot. I feel the pain from the push and shove. No matter what you put me through, I'll still believe in love. And I say, I love your
Admirable.
love action. Love's
Well done,
just
that
a
lad there.
distraction. No talking, just looking, watching your love action.
This like glass bottle rhythm. With a very bendy synth. that quick interlude especially, but the whole thing. That sequence of lines suddenly feels more late night than perhaps I considered. But the whole thing, so many thoughts about and sentences featuring love. Big synth chord reminds me of like a two-way army chord or something. Like the way it hit that. Your love action. I'd just like to add to the sentiment of the song by saying I love love and I love to love love. Yeah, again, it's clever, it's cheeky, it feels, in a way like positive. No matter what I go through, I'm not going to stop believing in love. But then it's like love is a distraction. And then, again, lines that maybe I didn't think about the significance of right away, but the idea of like, no talking, just looking, watching your love action, which sounds like maybe we're talking during physical intimacy, during sex. Let's not chit chat. I'm like, I want to, observe this. I want to be like really in the moment with this. So then it sounds like, and if love is a distraction in that context, it's like, yeah, we feel for each other. But in this moment, I'm interested in your love action, and I want to, directly witness this. So, yeah, very cheeky, and ultimately, even if I'm not reading that part right, it feels like the lines are deliberately clever in all the different sort of angles that they're using the word love. But sonically, absolutely loved it. I like the synth work, very bendy and compelling. Ultimately, that like quick section where I don't know if it was the percussion went double time or whether it was everything else being stripped out, gave it that very focused, intense quality. But I really enjoyed that section in particular. And yeah, it's interesting. It's, I listened to the Heaven 17 tune in this batch tonight, and that one had, at least in part, or like half, an electronic sound that maybe I would have more expected that whole album to sound like going into the first Heaven 17 album. Now again, I've learned, there's some soul and there's some funk and there's some different flavors on that album beyond what I would have thought, which I would have expected to be just more overtly electronic. This album has sounded more maybe like I expected that one to sound, and less like Don't You Want Me than I expected, and maybe in a couple cases more like the early Human League, because it's when it's just Oki on the vocals, and with a very electronic sound, it's like, okay, this doesn't feel crazy far away from the early stuff, but ultimately, yeah, this one didn't feel identical to the early stuff either. It's like, it's as electronic as maybe I would have expected, but yeah, with like a different flavor. So either way, I'm enjoying hearing in tandem the journey of these two groups, which again, big shout out to Han Solo for sharing them, but also for suggesting that way back when I began going through Human League. And obviously, the way I wanted to do it is to get to the point in time where they split. And I still, I'm glad we did it that way. I think that, has proved to be the most, insightful way I could go through it. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is like neither of the albums has been what I may have expected, even if of course I understood that my expectations were, you know, limited and speculative. So yeah, it's been cool to go through both. Obviously the next tune is indeed the big one. Looking forward to that. Do let me know what you think of this. I will see you next time. Peace.